Cover them up so you don't see beyond the mask. My world's a dying star. Falling for you has buried me in smoke and ash. In smoke and ash. Take me to the ending of the story. I'll see you in the morning when I wake. Save me from the storm inside my bones. The fear of living on my own. I'm all alone. I wear 1,000 scars. Cover them up so you don't see beyond the mask. My world's a dying star. Falling for you has buried me in smoke and ash. In smoke and ash. Take me to the ending of the story. I'll see you in the morning when I wake. Save me from the storm inside my bones. The fear of living on my own. I'm all alone. Take me to the ending of the story. I'll see you in the morning when I wake. Save me from the storm inside my bones. The fear of living on my own. I'm all alone.
Is this new app on the phone where you can just chat and talk about random things, and that's what we're doing now. So we're streaming playing poker for anyone listening in the stereo. We are the Underdogs. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook. I am JD Shaw. Let's get ready to go. How are you doing today, Salvador?
Good. I've just spilled a can of Coke all over my soundboard.
Well, that is a good way to start the stream.
Yep.
So Salvador has spilt a can of Coke all over himself right at the beginning of the stream, and I've just started the poker game. So I don't know how we're going to do well with this.
I know, I need to go and get some kitchen roll. I'll be back.
Okay, no problem. Salvador's going to get some kitchen roll. So today we're going to be talking about loads of questions. I've Googled and found some basically deep questions that we can talk to and hopefully make nice conversations about for when Cyberdwarf is back. You know, things to do with humanity or mindfulness or even economics or politics. We'll speak about it all today. If you guys do want to get involved in the chat, obviously you can do the questions on the stereo, or you can just write it in on Twitch stream or YouTube stream. Me and Cyberdwarf are obviously both playing well. So currently it's just me and Simon Ross sat at this table. He's not playing, but there's another guy that's also playing with us. While we wait for Simon Ross to come back to clean up all the coke,
I'm cleaning up.
Over himself.
I'm cleaning up now. God, what a mess.
He's cleaning up. You know, this is the second stream in a row you've messed up at the beginning.
I know. It's literally, it's all over my Yamaha soundboard. It's all over my DJ decks. It's everywhere. Like, I couldn't have spilt it in a worse place.
Coke is a massive killer to electronics.
Well,
Probably messed up.
that's what I mean. I've probably just fried like £600 worth of equipment in one go. Oh my god.
Well, me and this guy have just gone all in on this poker game while we're playing.
The worst thing is, it's gone inside the sliders. It's inside the sliders and everything.
I've just won 20 grand in a full house because this guy was bluffing and I called him on it. It's a good start. But other than that, Simon, the first question I've got for you that we will talk about is: are humans better at creation or destruction?
Oh, that's a deep one to start with. I think we're better at creation.
Dive a little bit deeper for me. What?
Because we create. I mean, we do destroy things, but we create lots of things that help the environment and planet and fix what we've destroyed along the way.
So it's interesting that you go straight to environment. I didn't necessarily say environment, but you seem to think that the creation and destruction argument would be more along the lines of environmental.
Well, it's more on the destruction side of it. Why I lean towards environment, because I wouldn't class us as destroyers of much else. I mean, you could argue that war and peace and all of that.
Well, I mean, you can talk about a lot of things. Even to the simplistic, Grand Theft Auto lobbies, when there's a lot of people running around, or Ark, Survival Evolved, when you've got people that just want to run around and destroy stuff.
Yeah.
It seems to be that when everyone, gets enough power and big enough, corruption normally follows.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that.
But yeah, so sorry, I just started hearing voices and I just realised my Spotify went onto an advert. It threw me off completely. But yeah, so in our Ark Survival Evolved, for instance, granted this is a very simplistic and immature way of putting it.
Yeah.
When everyone starts, everyone seems super friendly. Anyone that's ever played a video game, when people start off the beginning, they seem quite happy to help, and do stuff. But then when you start to meet like the alpha tribes, the tribes that have been playing for years or months or a long time, and they've got a lot of, dinosaurs, and they basically destroy your base dead easy. They would rather do that than help you.
Yeah.
But then again, this is too simplistic.
I mean,
really, simply because if you think about it, when you get to countries that get big and powerful, for example, even the British Empire, being that we're English, that got so big. But eventually we started handing back, the Commonwealth, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, I'd argue that with Ark, I mean, certainly at the start of Ark, as in when we first started playing it, it was quite political in the sense that there were people out there, like we were one of the people that used to protect all the smaller players, weren't we?
Yeah, and but that goes to show that we try to be alright people as best we can. But then you have Stimpy. Stimpy was in our group and he just wanted to go around messing everyone up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people in our tribe would help you, but it depends which tribe member you got hold of.
Yeah.
Or came across. But there you go, that's just one. So you think that humans are better at creation rather than destruction? And I would actually agree with you. I might have been playing devil's advocate with those questions a little bit. We certainly went off on a tangent. But yeah, I would agree. I would massively agree. I think we are. But next, we will go to the question, what do you think are the best and what are the worst parts of human nature?
That's a good one.
I've got loads of good ones coming up, guys, so remember to follow us. Well, Cyberdwarf, as I think you can find us on Twitch at Cyberdwarf89 or J.E. Shaw, that's myself, and you'll find us on YouTube and Facebook at The Underdogs.
I think one of our best kind of markers is how we like to challenge things.
So you think ambition, is that fair?
I think ambition, obviously the human race has evolved a lot over the centuries and we have become more challenging and lent towards personal beliefs in what's right and wrong and challenge those beliefs, where obviously centuries ago that wasn't the case. It was kind of whatever it is like that's what it is. But yeah, I'd say the challenging aspect of it, certainly.
You see, I think that's not a bad shout. Do you think, man, on poker, I think this guy's bluffing. I'm gonna go in.
I do it as well, but I've got fuck all to like to call his bluff with.
He had the 7 and a 9. I've got a jack and a 9. Oh, he's got a 3 of a kind. God, full house. Beat me. Son of a gun. Let him off. Anyway, I actually think that the best part of the human race is that when we get to a certain level of civilization, I'm talking, Western and even the Chinese culture, although not necessarily the Chinese so much, but certainly the Japanese. In fact, most countries, they get to a point where most of the populace just kind of wants to get on with it and, be alright with people in general, which is what has led us to civilization in general. Most people, obviously there are people that aren't the same, but most people just kind of want to get on with it and not really get in anyone's face, work, have a family, be happy, get things to make them happy, And I think that if we were a different breed of animal, we could end up, wanting, like, let's say that if even half of the population preferred violence or crime.
Yeah.
Is actually quite a good one. So you say ambition, but joint with apathy. So ambition of the intellectually and creative, and apathy of the populace.
Yeah.
Which is actually opposite. Anyway, next question. What aspects... Oh, that's kind of the same question. The question is, what aspects of humans have made us a successful species? I would say, like I said, the fact that we can all get along civilized and sort of, not argue to the mostly. Granted, we have wars and there are certainly conflicts going on, but overall, as a planet, I think we get along. Like, for example, if, any of us went to Japan right now, we'd be fine. In most countries would be fine, I think.
Yeah.
But we've obviously said ambition because it pushes the technological development, and technology tends to make people's life more reasonable. So yeah, I guess that's the same question, just worded in a different way. Would you like the next one? Or do you have anything to add to that?
No, go for it.
Yeah, okie dokie. 1 second. What makes people believe in absurd conspiracy theories? So, I don't know exactly what you'd class as an absurd conspiracy theory, but I I mean, you could say things like flat Earth and stuff. I don't know if it's that absurd, but or maybe alien abductions and things like that. I don't know what the the spectrum is to how absurd a conspiracy theory is, because I don't really dabble in them much myself, but I do love hearing about them.
Yeah.
I read and listen to anything regarding conspiracy theories and aliens because it's fascinating. Even if you think, yeah, it's a load of bollocks, it's all right,
Well, where do you think conspiracy theorists actually excel from? Because I personally believe that people that believe things like flat Earth and things like that, for example, that have been proven to be wrong, I think it's personally more of a rebellion, or that want to believe that people are wrong, that everyone else is wrong, and they want to be different.
Yeah. Well, it might also be to do with the lack of trust from, what government in general.
Yeah.
I also think it's a desire to be part of, like you say, a rebellion, but like an ambitious difference. I mean, I don't know. I'm certainly not trained in psychology or anything like that, but if I had to make a snap judgment just from my uneducated brain, I'd say that I wouldn't be surprised if a majority of conspiracy theorists had a desire for more in their life. And I certainly don't mean that insultingly. I mean that they might wish to be a part of something magnificent, sort of something that history would remember forever.
Yeah.
So grandeur, delusions of grandeur, maybe.
But yeah, I just think it's people that want to rebel about what's actually going on and what's. I mean, there's so many people that I know that will swing the way that they believe just because, for example, just because a certain politician's in the lead role, or becomes prime minister. I know people that will swing the way that they believed before, or come out with some random things just because they don't like the prime minister, or they don't like the politician that's saying what they're saying, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, well, I mean, that brings up tribalism, which is I think it's a big problem these days. I mean, since I'd say that the pot was stirred. In America, I'd say it was stirred originally with Barack Obama, and then when Trump came to it, I think that he was the catalyst. He triggered a straight division down the middle of America, anyway, that was primed by Obama's, sort of rhetoric. But Trump certainly was the catalyst, and we had the same thing here with Brexit. It wasn't really a person more than a idea.
Yeah,
like,
whoop. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
I won.
Well, yeah, you won on the poker game. But as in tribalism these days, I think people are more inclined to believe in what their sort of, I want to say supporters, but I guess I'll say tribe, as in, for example, if I know that conservatives in America anyway are meant to be sort of pro-life.
Yeah.
Now, I certainly lean towards, that not pro-life, but I'm actually pro-choice personally. I think that it should be a choice.
Yeah.
But I would say that I lean more to the right than the left when it comes politically. But there you go. Most people, I think, should choose. I can imagine some people to choose to be pro-life just because everyone else is, like, sort of thing in their tribe. That might be a part of it.
I've got a king and queen. Shall I call his bluff?
It's up to you. She's gone all in as well, though. So you're either going to win a lot or a little.
Screw it. You only live once.
Lol. It's throwing it down. It's throwing down the gauntlet. We don't even know what comes out in the river yet.
They've got the same.
For anyone that listens on stereo, either live or maybe you were listening to this afterwards, Salvador's gone all in on a poker game
without even seeing what cards it were. Way, and he wins!
Jesus. Oh, well done, Simon.
Drop the mic moment.
We'll move to the next question. What's something terrifying that we've all come to accept as a fact of life? I can think of two things straight off the bat.
Go on.
Well, one, I don't really want to dive into it on this because many people don't like the subject, but death, for one thing. The second thing is aliens. There's only, I think it was a Star Trek guy or someone famous basically said there's only two possibilities about aliens. One is that they exist, or two is that they don't. And both are frightening as hell.
The probability that they don't, though, is very unlikely. Like,
you see, I agree with you. I think aliens do exist. I don't know if they've visited Earth or not. I'm not saying
yeah.
that.
But I get the fear factor in that kind of comment, though, because if they don't, and it means we're the only ones out here, and our planet just happened to evolve in the way that it did, then that is kind of scary.
Yeah, exactly. But with all the planets out there, I mean, the possibility is tiny. Not even. It's tiny upon tiny. It's ridiculous.
I think it's a lot of that's around about what people kind of imagine aliens are, or presume that they are, because a lot of people, when you say about aliens, see them as this kind of life form that's a lot cleverer than us and that's exists a lot longer than we have. Whereas, an alien could be a tadpole on a different planet. You know what I mean? It's still an alien.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of my friends, when I was younger, actually blew my mind and said, for all we know, we could see a sea on a different planet, and that sea could be sentient, for all we know.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind a little bit. But
But
in general,
I think as soon as someone mentions aliens, people do just see them as this life form that's the life form that's a lot cleverer than us and that's gonna come and do this, that, and the other to us.
Independence Day style.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to quote Battleship, which also quoted another famous person. I wish I had all these famous quotes up, but they said if aliens came to us, it'd be the possibility of, how the Europeans came to America. They're dominated because of technology.
Yeah.
And it would be at this moment in time, but I don't know. Humans are advancing in technology awfully fast. I mean, you've got Elon Musk, who's basically wanting to get to Mars as quick as possible.
Yeah, I think he'll do it as well. His track record.
I'm probably going to lose this. I've gone all in. I have got something, but I don't think it's worth going all in. But I did it anyway just because I think it's bluffing. I could be wrong.
I didn't have shit.
Oh no, it's straight. Oh, I can see that.
I'm glad I didn't go.
No, it's okay.
But no, what I would truly find fascinating and wish would happen is if we discovered a planet with dinosaurs on it.
Well,
like a planet in the early ages of Earth. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the chances of discovering that.
Look how our dinosaurs look.
No, but it'd just be interesting to see. Oh, I lost you then. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It'd just be interesting to see a planet like ours, or similar to ours in its earlier life.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly would be interesting to see a prehistoric planet, but obviously the oxygen levels and nitrogen levels back in the dinosaur ages were very different from when we were.
Yeah. I just think it'd be interesting, if they did discover a planet similar to Earth in its earlier stages with life form on it in the dinosaur era, so to speak. I think that'd just be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if they set drone cameras on that you could go on and watch. Because they would. We've got the technology for it. Well, yeah, we've got the technology for it. I'd be on that every day, just watching.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I certainly like the idea of finding aliens of what they would look like or be like on a different planet that had completely different element and properties to us, but I don't know if that's going to happen in our lifetime, to be honest.
Do you think aliens have visited Earth?
I don't think so. I don't know, but I, off the cuff, I'd say probably not. If you know, if you held a gun to my head and say yes or no, I'd say no. Simply because I just don't. I mean, we've obviously got loads of back to conspiracy theories now. We've got loads of conspiracy theories about Roswell, New Mexico, and Area 51, and all these sort of, you know, abductions and sightings and stuff. But normally, if you do even the tiniest bit of digging, there's some reason you can put to it.
Yeah.
Now, I think conspiracy theorists would argue, well, of course they're going to give you a reason because it's, you know, the government, they don't want you to know. But I agree that they might not want you to know originally, but I don't fully understand why they wouldn't want us to know now. You know?
Yeah, I kind of get that, but in the same breath, if there is a life form out there that has the capacity to affect or do something to us, then it would be quite a unsettling thing to announce to the public.
I certainly wouldn't do it during the pandemic.
I suppose the question really is, do you think that we as a civilization now are ready to hear that type of news, if it is true? Because I suppose that's what it comes down to, isn't it?
There's a lot of wacky people as well that might do something bad.
Yeah.
I think it's hit and miss. It depends on how you'd announce it, or you know what exactly you're announcing. Like if you said, right, by the way, people, 50 years ago or 70 years ago, Roswell was actually true. We caught a alien in a spacecraft. We reverse engineers, and that's why you've got iPhones and stuff. It happened 50 years ago, but we thought we'd tell you all now. I'd be like, I think a lot of people would be like, knew it. Some people would be like, what else are you hiding? Other people would be like, okay, is there any threat? There's no threat at all, no danger at all, no problem at all.
Yeah, well, that comes back to my comment before about it depends what they've actually found, if there is something.
Yeah, I guess the argument would be, are they coming back, sort of thing.
Well, yeah, well, it's not just that, I suppose. How advanced are they? What technology do they have on us? There's lots of... I think there'd be lots of things to be said about it, but I think the main thing would be, like you said before, what else is the government hiding if they've hid this for so many years? And I think it'd just put a massive lack of trust on the governments, and they're already struggling now.
But already did that.
The what, sorry?
I mean, the Watergate scandal in America did that. In the UK, I don't know if we've had a scandal as big as something like Watergate.
But that would be minute compared to the scandal of this, if it is true, because every government of every side of the country would be in on it.
Why do you think every government on every side of the country would be in on it? I was thinking specifically about, say, one government, one country that had hidden it.
I think if it's happened, it won't have just happened in one location.
Right, so you're talking about multiple aliens coming down, then, are you?
Well, the likelihood of one just crashing down accidentally is pretty slim.
I don't know, dude. I think this is why I think the whole idea that aliens have come is pretty slim. Oh, I've disconnected on the game, by the way.
Ah.
But don't worry about the phone. The phone is fine.
Good old 4G.
Yeah, we got
Oh,
4G on my phone.
Rich is in the Discord, but I can't talk because...
Well, I'm disconnected.
Oh.
So I don't know what you want me to do.
I would have jumped in if I knew you were disconnected. My bad.
Yeah. Well, don't worry about it. I've still got some other things we can talk about. So, I mean, I think that talking about aliens that could go on forever. So we'll move on to the next topic of conversation. Do you think that tribalism, which we touched on earlier, which is obviously, just for anyone listening, the act of people separating themselves into an us and them group, often happens with politics, left and right, Democrat and Republican, Conservative and Labour, which is mainly the UK version. Can it be overcome, and if so, how? Do you think that this tribalism, joint with the internet, which, let's face it, has never happened before? Normally tribalism has been with, I'd say in England anyway, the most it's ever been is a sort of north and south kind of argument. Because in England we've got like the metropolitan London south, and then we've got kind of what used to be the coal mining and industrial north. That was obviously back in the 70s or 80s. But these days, with the added internet, do you think that the internet is radicalising and tribalising people, particularly young people, because they're the ones that tend to be on the internet the most, especially with Twitter?
I think definitely on the radicalising aspect, it is having a massive impact on children.
By children, are you talking about young adult children?
Young adults, and also struggling adults as well. Adults that are in a mentally unstable place, just kind of being led along by things that they're seeing, or reading up on. And the sad part of it is these people are targeting them people specifically.
Yeah. I think that there is a lot of that going on, as in radicalising and tribalising, and I think that it's I think it's happening on both sides. But see, this is why I worry. What if I'm being radicalised sometimes? But then sometimes I think, well, no, because I don't agree with everything that they say.
Yeah.
I think that but then again, that might be an extreme version of radicalisation. That so this is another existential question, or existential. I can't even say it properly. But how do you know if you're being radicalised or tribal? Falling into these tribal groups, and when in the question it says, "Can it be overcome?" I assume part of that would be the self-realisation that you are being, tuned in tribalism. So I try and often think about, am I being tuned? Do I agree with everything? Where would I, cut the line? What's too far?
For you as an individual, you wouldn't necessarily pick up that it's happening to you, because that's the idea around it. It's radicalising you without you even knowing it. And it's about slowly changing your look on life and your beliefs, turning your beliefs by backing it up with evidence that could be false evidence, but making it believable to you. The main signs of when someone's been radicalised is actually family and friends picking it up.
So family and friends doing what exactly?
Actually picking up the change, or noticing changes, subtle changes. So the best defence against radicalisation is actually family and friends that are noticing subtle changes in a person.
You see, what I find, certainly with generationally, is that there tends to be a generation gap in politics anyway.
Yeah.
For example, I love my father to pieces, but me and him are political, almost paramount opposites in a lot of ways. Not every way, but a lot of ways. And I often ask myself, You know, they normally say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Well, politically, I've fallen a long way from my tree. So have I been radicalised, or have I just grown up seeing different things and forming my own opinion on these things? It's a very difficult question. I mean, sometimes I do have to double check myself. I don't know.
Has your path or your main beliefs been consistent throughout the years that you've grown up, or have they dramatically changed all of a sudden?
They've changed, but not all of a sudden. But
yeah.
That's not
so that.
because can I just say, standardly, most people as they get older tend to go more conservative, or less. How do I say this? Less Labour or less Democrat, if you're an American.
Yeah.
Now, I was not into politics really at all until I was about early 20s.
Yeah.
So, and I'd say that I was probably, a lefty. And then I started paying attention. But by the way, when I say I was a lefty, I was a default lefty, as in it was just what all my friends were. It's just, what everyone else was saying around me. You know what I mean? It's not like I looked into any of the politics myself. I just thought, that's what everyone else is doing. I'll just follow them because I didn't look into it.
You know what? Mummy hasn't even said goodnight yet.
Okay. Sorry, my daughter. But,
so no, I'd argue that's not a radical change though. That's just you growing as a person and aging and becoming more aware of your beliefs.
But I have been what I am now solidly since my early 20s. By the way, everyone, I'm 34 this month. So, well over a decade now. So, do you see why I don't think I'm being radicalised? And I also try and listen to both sides of the argument. I actually listen to radio hosts that I really dislike. Because I think that they are fundamentally wrong.
Yeah.
But I force myself to listen to them because I don't want to just hear one side of the story. What are the other sides saying? Is it true? And I do try and do that, but it's hard, man. It's hard to listen to someone who you fundamentally disagree with politically.
Yeah, but I'd argue that that's you as your personality trying to find out both sides of the story. When most people would just pick one side and just listen to that side, I wouldn't call that radicalisation or not being open to the opponent. I'd just call it you're not bothered, if you get what I mean.
Well, I know myself. I'm very opinionated, but I'm also of the opinion that my opinion shouldn't inflict your opinion. So if someone ever came up to me and said, I completely disagree with how you feel about this subject, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel the need to bark at them until they agree with me.
Yeah.
I will say, well, I think this way because of X, Y, and Z. And if they say, well, I think this way because of X, Y, and Z, I'd probably go, fair enough, we'll agree to disagree. And I'd look into it, like, so they think that, why do they think that? I think the main problem with looking into it after the fact is the possibility that you're quick to agree with any debunk that might come at you, even if it's not correct.
Yeah.
So you've got to look at more than one source, or at least an official source that might tell you the complete truth. I don't know, I'm getting really deep into it now, I think.
But yeah, I mean...
Yeah.
One second, Chris.
Yeah, I live around like pig.
Fair enough, we need to go to bed. Diane's just sent her to say something like, I smell like poo or something. I didn't quite hear what she said. But yeah, so there you go. I mean, I do like talking about politics and things like that. Oh, this guy thinks he's Billy Big Bollocks. Hang on.
Oh, you're streaming?
Yes, I'm streaming and I'm talking live on a radio show. Thank you for that.
Oh, hey Connie, how you doing? How's it going? Yeah, me and JD are just playing some poker and... Yep.
We're talking on a stereo app.
Connie said, Izzy is a poo bomb. Yeah, so anyone watching, me and JD Shaw are actually streaming live on a stereo show as well as here. So do check it out if you're interested. The app's completely free. It's called Stereo, and you can follow myself and JD Shaw with our usual names.
And if anyone does want to play with us and you're on a PC, it's Prominence Poker.
Yeah.
It's a free game. Feel free to knock it out. Me and you, Simon, we're actually wrecking this table.
Yeah, I give you some money before.
Whatever. You've got like 44k. I've got like 42k. We're just rinsing these other guys.
I had 56 before I called you before. Just saying.
Yeah, well, you don't.
But yeah, I am wrecking it.
We're both wrecking it. Anyway, we'll move to the next question. Let's go to society, culture, and the world. Do you believe in miracles? Do you think that miracles happen every day? And what is a miracle? What do you consider a miracle? I'll let you start.
Kind of, I suppose. See, my problem with that question is the definition of a miracle. I mean, is it a miracle or are they just lucky?
Well, that's whether you believe in faith, then I guess. I'd
Yeah.
say a miracle is something that happens that is damn near impossible to happen.
Yeah. But is that luck or is it a miracle?
Well, humbly, I don't really believe in miracles. I just think that people are either incredibly lucky or they're not. I mean, that just brings up the question: do you believe in luck? Because believing in luck is the same thing as having faith in a miracle. Do you think that a man makes his own luck? Do you think it's a coincidence? And by luck, do you mean like he's lucky, like a four-leaf clover kind of lucky, or do you believe that luck is just an anomaly? It's like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. It was crazy. Like, it's a crazy thing that happened. It's not lucky. It's just, well, I mean, see, this is, we're getting so deep in now. I'm having trouble articulating my words. Is luck, in your opinion, just a fortunate outcome to something? Oh god, I'm not even voicing that right.
It's a fortunate outcome in the event that something impossible happens.
Yeah, but lucky tends to be defined. Like, if a person says, I'm lucky, that insinuates that lucky things happen to them all the time.
Yeah. I suppose it depends. I suppose if we class it, and Connie said, by the way, that her being friends with you is a miracle. But yeah, just pass it. But no, I suppose if you define it in that respect, luck is more of a thing that happens more often. Like, you might have a lucky day, or you might win on a scratch card, and a miracle is something out of the ordinary that you never imagined, or that people didn't think could happen.
Well, it might be the connotation of the word miracle. I tend to affiliate miracle with a sort of religious-based phenomenon. So, for example, angels and things like that. Like, if someone said, "Oh, it's a miracle that this person survived,"
but why wouldn't they say an angel was looking after that over that person?
Well, that essentially is the same. It's just a different way of wording it, isn't it?
Well, luck is just a different way of wording.
Exactly. That's the point that I was trying to make. It's hard to even describe, isn't it?
But what I'm saying is, personally, I would define luck as something that happens more occasionally than a miracle. Like, say if I became within inches of getting run over tomorrow, I would call that a miracle. Whereas, say if I stumbled across a £5 note on the floor, I'd say that was lucky. So that's how I look at it.
I don't use the word miracle like ever personally. So
Well, obviously nothing's happened like that in your life.
I'm just trying to think if I've ever used the word miracle.
He's getting deep, Connie.
Okay, well, let's move to the next one. What is the purpose of art in society?
Of art?
Art. And you can define art however you like. I would say that there's so many different versions of art that are used for different fundamental purposes that is an incredibly broad question that could have a million different answers. But that's the point in these questions. We can explore them how we will.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just a form of everyone expressing their selves.
Yeah, but then you've got things like gaming. Gaming
Yeah,
is
yeah,
an
yeah.
art form.
Yeah.
What we're doing right now. You could argue that gaming isn't just a form of expressing yourself, it is a medium to experience different stories and realities, same as books are in that regard. Although they're granted for a different medium. I'm just trying to think exactly. I would say that the purpose of art is to provide fulfilling life possibilities in general, as in fulfillment in life.
Yeah.
Now, Aswin, I've just disconnected from poker, but my stream and everything is fine. So,
Strange.
oh no, it's disconnected. I can't keep doing this. I'm gonna have to sort out my internet. It's getting worse.
You're not having much. You're not having much luck, are you, with your internet? Like what I did.
No, I mean it's a good job we're talking through stereo and you're streaming, because I can't seem to stream right now. It's become impossible. I'm wondering if the TP link's broken.
Perhaps. We'll have to have a look into how we can improve the situation. I'm sure there's something we can get or do. Or...
Yeah, we'll sort of. Either way, we can continue with the conversation for now. So, moving. I mean, if you want to just, finish up this art conversation, we could simply say. What could we say? I think that art is, like I say, just fulfillment for life to have purpose and happiness.
Yeah.
In general. Okay, so how important is freedom of the press to a healthy society? I've got a lot to say about this, but I'll let you start.
I would say that by healthy press, do you mean press that are only publishing good news, or press that are publishing both sides, good and bad?
I leave you to take it how you wish, but freedom of the press in a how important is freedom of the press to a healthy society?
I'd say it's very important if you looked at it as they are publishing or telling the public about both what's going on around the world in a positive and a negative sense, and being open and non-biased towards it. I think whatever, certainly in the technical era that we're in, and a lot of people being able to watch it wherever they are, all the time, and read newspapers and things, I think that there are a lot of people that rely on what they're reading, and the sad part is, I think that certainly some news anchors, if you want to call them that, do lean towards one or the other, and are unfortunately biased in what they...
I don't think that's a problem. I just want to go out on the record. I don't think it's a problem if a channel is biased. I think as long as they let their biases known, and they have to report factually, like they don't exaggerate truths, or, for example, cut out. Let's say they're biased to a certain politician, and they're looking at the opponent politician, and they cut out video footage and slice it to make it look bad.
Yeah.
That I think it might be worth having some form of medium. In other words, I want to say government body, but I kind of don't want to say government. But basically, some private corporation. But even private corporations can be skewed. This is the problem. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, I think it'd be a good idea to have a middle of the road company, and I think there's one that's meant to exist, but it certainly doesn't do anything. That if facts were reported incorrectly, there might be massive penalties. I think that they should be allowed to be biased. I don't think that's a problem. I just think that their biases, they shouldn't be able to claim that they are objective and not biased and then be biased.
Yeah.
And I also think that everything that they are reporting on has to be checked, and they want to check it so hard because they know that if they put something out there that was incorrect, they'd either be fined or penalised to a quite heavy amount.
Yeah.
I that's just what I think. I think that would help, and I think both sides, whether you're lean left or lean right, I think that most news places have biases, and they also try and skew the facts for their own agenda because people like to hear it. People like to hear the fantastical version of how horrible the person they don't like is. I mean, even if you were in school and you didn't like someone but you liked someone else, if someone came up to you and said, oh, that guy you don't like, well, he went and did this, he went and punched someone, you'd be very quick to go, yeah, probably. But if you heard that, your best mate went and punched someone, you'd be like, you sure? He didn't normally go around punching people.
Yeah.
But that's just all I'm saying.
The only thing I would say about the news at the moment is, I'll see you later, Connie. Thanks for watching for a bit. Have a good night. The only thing that I would say about the news is, I think that we've got to a point where everything and anything is reported on, and some of the more how do you say? Some of the more serious I think some of the more serious news that comes across doesn't kind of hit you as hard as it used to. As in, a lot of things have just become the norm because you're hearing about it consistently.
Talking about like riots and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, going back 10, 15 years ago when the news wasn't reported on as higher a global stance as it is now, when you hear about riots and things, it'd be a massive thing and everyone would be talking about it. And now you hear about riots pretty much every day because they're doing it on a global scale, and it's just like, yeah. Do you get what I mean?
I don't know if they are doing it on a global scale. I think
well, they are, because you're hearing about it from other countries as well as yours. I mean, if you turned on Sky News now, or other news channels are available, but just for example, 80% of the news that's on there will be in other countries.
Well, yeah, that's because there's not much going on. UK is a small country, most of us are all bloody locked down.
But that's exactly my point. Back in the days, it was just mainly news from local reported on, which kind of, when something big did happen and they reported on it, it was like a big thing that everyone talked about and like a shocker.
Are you saying that in the UK we're pretty boring, so now that there's lots of crazy stuff going on?
Well, yeah, you didn't used to hear about things like we do now all the time, did we? Even though they were happening. I mean, take for example, tornadoes and storms. only since they started actually naming them has anyone ever took anything away from that. When they started naming storms, everyone was talking about it.
Forever, haven't they?
They haven't. They only started naming them like 4 or 5 years ago.
That can't be true, dude. Hurricane Katrina was 10 years ago, wasn't it?
But not every storm. They didn't used to name every storm that came across. I'm sure it's only something recent.
I don't know about this, so I'm Googling it.
But my point is, like, every week now you hear about a storm coming.
Right, this is why I'm a bit confused. They've been doing it in America for a while, but in the UK we only started naming them in 2014.
Yeah, so I wasn't far off.
And they've been naming them in America since 1953.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, take that for an example. Like, before that started happening, you didn't used to hear people talking about hurricanes that were coming or things like that. Unless it was like actually on your doorstep, you didn't hear about it. When they started naming them, it became like a big thing. And obviously because you can relate to it as a name, it's talked about more. But my point where I'm going with that...
I think they have been reported about more, I agree with you there. But I don't think if it's got an affiliation to do with the naming of storms.
I do. I think people cling on to that because it's relatable. And that's the actual reason. I mean, why do you think they started naming them?
Well, I mean, I don't really care why we started naming them, to be honest. I think that it's just something that America did and we took it on. But I think it's more... I mean, you might be right to an element. I just don't agree that that's why people care. I think that the main reason people have started to care about more world news is because the world has become a lot more interactive with the internet in the past 20 years. People have more investment into the people they know. For example, you probably know lots of American streamers or YouTubers, or for example, my wife loves the Impractical Jokers and where they are, and people know more about, you know, us in America particularly because we're both near enough the same culture, enough, both Western cultures. I wouldn't say that I know half as much about France or Germany or Italy. I mean, and I've been there loads of times. I've only been to America once. But it's because we don't share a language with them. It's not as easy to fully understand.
Yeah.
I think it's more to do with the internet making the world a bit smaller than it is to do with the naming of storms. I think that has an element to do with it. I'm happy to agree that, you know...
I mean, I'm pretty sure that the reasoning behind naming them was to make them more relatable, and it has worked. From what I know about it, but my point, what I was going to is, because that's become a thing now, and you hear about them all the time, it's not as much of a shocker. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. Well, I was just thinking of whether to bring up our winter storms that we've been having in Norwich recently. They're calling it the Beast from the East. It's not really got a name.
Yeah.
I'm sure it does have a name. I think it does actually. Well,
it's the Beast from the East, isn't it?
The Beast from the East. But even in the papers, they're not calling it a name. They're calling it the Beast from the East 2.
Mm.
You know, storms are getting sequels, mate.
They're running out of names.
But moving on to the next question, what would the perfect city, in your opinion, be like?
Perfect city?
Mm-hmm.
I suppose free from crime, or very little crime. Good education, schools. And a decent mix of people. Of all different ages and religions, cultures, because I think having a decent mix of culture and age groups makes a city thrive.
I don't mind having like diversity of races and everything like that, but I'm actually a strong believer in the culture of the place. For example, if I went to Japan, I'd love, you know, to experience that Japanese culture.
Yeah.
But I think that the UK is in danger of losing some of its culture because it is full throttling it into diversity. I think that everyone should be entitled to their own religion and their own culture, but I think we do as a country need to hang on to the British culture.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not saying you have to be any colour or creed to be British. I'm more than happy for, you know, I don't care what colour you are, I don't care what, you know, religion you are, that does not bother me. I genuinely think that if someone's a dick, they're a dick in any colour, to be honest. So
yeah, but if that dick wasn't there, you wouldn't be able to talk about him.
Yeah, but no, I don't mind people having, like, I think that people have the right to be dicks. I think we are different.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about dangerous levels of, you know, like, criminal dicks is what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
But I actually don't think a large city, and by large I'm talking Manchester, Birmingham, London, I don't really like them. That's not the perfect city for me. I think that cities can get too big.
Yeah.
I'm actually a stronger... for example, my favourite cities are small to medium cities, for anywhere between Lincoln, Norwich and Nottingham. They are about right for me. And Nottingham's got a bit of crime in it, but it's also got a lot of nice places.
Nottingham's
Lincoln
quite
and Norwich
heavy,
tend
isn't
to
it?
have like one or two rough areas and everything else is fine.
Yeah. I mean, I've never lived in a city. I've always lived in a town. So it's like coming to visit you is like a massive change for me because it's in a city. Like it might be a small city, but it's still a city that I'm not used to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small city. It is a small city.
But yeah, I mean, I like living in a town in a small area where everyone knows everyone. I suppose the only negative thing about living in a town or in a smaller place is lack of activities.
Well, I think what we're touching on here is community. I think that we actually, where we live on the outskirts of a small city.
Yeah.
So in our little, in our little place where we live, it's like a borough, if you like. It's a very small borough. I mean, I would say that we have a community. We've got a community centre called, you know, where everyone's around and everyone does their ballet there, and my daughter goes to ballet and whatnot. But if we want to, we're honestly like a 2-minute bike ride into the city.
Yeah. I like that. I like that aspect of it.
Yeah. And it's brilliant. And like, I know that if my daughter was to go to her friend's house at this minute anyway, she's only 5, nearly 6, you know, she'd be down the road. And it's a very safe neighbourhood. The worst that we get here is domestic violence, which, you know, I think happens everywhere, to be quite honest.
What do I call it? I've got a 2 and a 3.
2, 3...
Screw it. I've got plenty of money. I've got plenty of dollar.
I would not have gone in.
Oh no!
I was going to say, you're mental, man. But fair enough, yeah, my perfect city basically would be lowest crime as possible, a small to medium-sized city, with lots of activities to do in general and not in lockdown.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. What would be different if the 9/11 terror attack never occurred? That's an incredibly difficult question. That is, oh my god. Well, for one thing, would America have gone and, you know, tried to get the oil from Iraq, basically? You know,
I think
there be such a...
I think that's impossible to answer.
Yeah, I think that is an impossible question.
So I'm not even going to try to. I truly think something else would have happened though, somewhere else, if that hadn't happened.
Yeah.
But I think that's inevitable.
But I will say that the Bill Bailey joke, which makes me laugh, when America went to war with Iraq, America's like the big bully in the playground that was picking on the little kid, picking his nose, saying, "Give us a lunch money or I'll thump you." And Britain, like, basically was like the kid behind the big bully going, yeah. Because we back them up, even though America's spends so much on its military. Ridiculous. Anyway, should governments make laws to protect people from hurting themselves? Now, this is a good question, because obviously we make it illegal, certainly in this country, I know it's not everywhere, to, for example, ride a motorbike without a helmet. We've got health and safety laws that people say are going mad, because, they have to write on a bottle of bleach in this country not to drink it. It's, it is a bit interesting.
I think, yeah, to a great degree, but no. I think that they should put steps in place to prevent you causing harm to another individual. But I actually am twofold in that. I think if you're going to be an idiot, let them be an idiot.
And so you're Darwinian. You're basically saying that if you're that much of an idiot, you'll kill yourself off and take yourself out of the gene pool.
Yeah, well, not like that, but yeah, I suppose, when you put it like that. But it's like, I don't think they should... Oh, I need to be careful here. Yeah, I'm going to stick with what I said. I think they should put laws in place that prevent you from harming others by your actions. So for example, if you want to ride a motorbike without a helmet, if you want to be an idiot, do it.
Okay. What if that person had 2 children, and he wrote about without a helmet because we're in charge and we said that they didn't have to, and now he's brain damaged or whatever or dead.
I think you should provide everyone with all the facts and benefits and leave it up to them.
Like a brochure through the door.
And leave it up to them as a choice. It's just like when cars first got seatbelts. It was the same thing there. It wasn't the law to wear a seatbelt. That only became law in time. But when they first brought seatbelts out, it was, this will prevent you from going through the window or smashing your face off the wheel, sort of thing. And people actively started to wear them without the law being there. So I think people will make most people anyway, will make a common sense of a judgment and either do it or not. And I think if they don't, given all the facts are there, then that's their own issue.
See, I agree with you. I was playing devil's advocate, but I do agree with you. I think that when you get too many laws, it just creates...
It's like smoking. Smoking, for example. Me and you both smoke. We know how bad it is for us. We know all of the information that's out there, but we still do it. Are we stupid for doing it?
The reason I'm taking that away is because there's a big tax on cigarettes.
Yeah, but are we stupid for doing it? Yeah, we are, but we do it anyway. And you could argue that if one of us was to fall ill in our later lives, then it's our own fault because we've not listened to advice. And to a degree it is. But like you say, they'll never... Because you've been given all the facts and evidence around it to say that it is doing this to you. But you're failing to do anything about it.
No, but you said to a degree it is. But surely it is. It just is. There's not any degree about it.
Well, I would argue certainly for us in our earlier years when most likely we dabbled in smoking. I don't think the kind of information that's available now was available. And I don't think back then, certainly not for me anyway, I don't think it was talked about or kind of taught.
I'd fold if I were you. Okay,
I don't think it was taught very well either. But then again, as a kid, you're just going to do it anyway, aren't you?
didn't tell you to fold, by the way.
After I did it. I had a pair as well.
I had 2 pairs. Okay. Well, there you go.
But yeah,
But yeah, I agree.
I think
don't
they should
think
make.
the government should make as many laws.
Yeah. I think the world's going mad.
But,
I think they're going like OTT on it. I think they're just going absolutely nuts.
what is the most uplifting thing happening in the world right now, and what is the most tragic thing? Well, the most tragic thing is the pandemic, I think, and the lockdown. It's driving everyone mental.
I suppose the most uplifting thing is communities. Like the amount of people that are that you see working together and kind of helping the communities out. People that are suffering with the pandemic and kind of chipping in and doing shopping and things. Like amazing.
Yeah, I know it sounds weird, but it's nothing less than I'd expect, though. But I'm happy that it's happening. For example, I did expect it, but equally, if it wasn't happening, I would be disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, I'm surprised there's not been more kickback than there has been from the general public.
When they announced the third lockdown,
yeah,
we might have started having protests.
I definitely thought by now, at least, something would happen to rebel against it. And I'm very surprised that it hasn't. I'm happy it hasn't, but I'm very surprised it hasn't.
Okay.
What's yours?
Can people... Oh, my most uplifting thing in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Well, another tragic thing / uplifting thing is I'm a big fan of obscene comedy. I like comedy when it shouldn't be said. I like comedy that people would say it should be like, banned because it's too far.
Yeah.
As in, I find the obscenity funny. I find the, oh my god, that is so bad. Do you know what I mean? That makes me laugh.
Yeah.
So, at the minute, we seem to be having a sort of, what's it called? A cancel culture, a ban culture on anything where even comedians that are joking about horrible things like, rape, murder, even, what's it called, where you denigrate, or what is it, denigrate, where you basically have a go at women, misogyny and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, all those things are appalling and wrong. But when they joke about them, the whole point is that it's wrong. The whole point is that, can you believe that someone would ever say that? No, it's obscene. No one would ever say that. Do you see why it makes me laugh?
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be said. And the fact that people are taking it almost literally, like when they say it, they mean it. So my good thing is comedy. I love comedy, and it's still happening. And people like, what's that guy's name? Who did a Netflix special, oh god, what's his name? I was talking about him the other day. Let me just find his name.
So I tell you what I do, Rick Gervais keeps doing, he does
Dave
like...
Chappelle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ricky Gervais does a live stream on Twitch every week. On a Sunday. And it's so funny. Like, I know you don't think too highly of Ricky Gervais, do you?
That's incorrect.
Okay.
Me and Ricky Gervais, I think we disagree on things politically, and I'm not a big fan of his movies or TV series.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of his stand-ups, and I am a huge fan of the Ricky Gervais show, which is obviously with Carl Pilkington and Stephen Merchant. So that's right. I love Ricky Gervais, and even though I disagree with him sometimes politically, I love Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
I think he also hits the nail on the head a lot of the times.
Yeah, but he does I think it's on a Sunday night every week, or a Saturday night, one of the two. But it's absolutely hilarious. He'll just ask, like, the people watching it drive the comedy. Like they'll just say something random and he'll make a joke out of it, or do you know what? You know what he's like. He doesn't really care, does he? Like what it's about. Or...
No, he's
But I think, I mean, he does it for like half an hour, 40 minutes, and it must be so up. Well, it is for me. You know, I get a laugh out of it. It's so uplifting, and I think things like that, like, are really good. Like, especially like with what's going on and everything.
Yeah.
So I think we need more of that.
People need. Yeah. I can't wait until the lockdowns ease, to be honest. I'm just looking forward to taking my partner out for a meal or a cinema, or taking my daughter to a soft play area again.
Yeah, or a park. That's it. You don't even know how parks, are you?
Well, can people with vastly different cultural backgrounds live together peacefully, and if so, how? I think they can. I think the problem comes when I don't think they mean to do it, but let's say the English, for example, a lot of them have moved to Spain, and what they've actually done is made their own little communities.
I'm gonna lose.
Where they're just hanging out with each other, and the Polish have done it here, and I think obviously some Muslims have done it here. But the problem isn't that they're moving to different countries. That's fine. But when you sort of make a little click and don't try and integrate yourself into the community, it kind of becomes an other. Again, it boils down to tribalism. You start to not engage in the communities, and I think that is a problem. So yes, I absolutely think people can live together peacefully and fine with different cultural backgrounds. I just think it's a problem if you've got too many people in one location that settle with being friends and staying with what they know. I think they need to just branch out.
Yeah.
Whatever culture they are.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the problems arise when people have a lack of understanding of the culture, or they've not got an interest in learning about the culture. I think different cultures can survive. Well, no, I won't put it like that. What I'll say is, I think they would thrive more if people were open to learn about each other's cultures. I mean, that's not saying you have to know everything about it or believe in it, but I think getting a decent understanding in different cultures goes a long way, and it gives you a better understanding of the person and why they might be doing things in that way.
Well, I'm happy to, say what I've said, and I don't disagree with what you've said, so move to the next one. What does honour mean to you? How important is it to you? Does your culture value honour, and what exemplifies honour in your culture?
You go first, I'll have a think.
Son of a bitch. I booked out on that, and if a 10 came out, I'd have had a straight, and it came out, and I folded because I didn't think a 10 would come out.
I've got a jack and a 7.
I had 7 and a queen, so I'd have had 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, king.
I'm gonna try and bluff him.
I've got 60k.
Oh no, he's took it! He's took it!
He had nothing.
No!
Oh, he had flush.
Oh no.
Yeah, I didn't want to go in on that one. Thank you very much. I got clairvoyant, the challenge.
Well,
sorry, guys,
I had
we'll
57 grand.
Okay, honour to me tends to mean, I think for us, we don't really use, in the UK, we don't really use the term honourable. We use the term sort of, being alright, I suppose. As in, if you are almost chivalrous is probably the wrong word. I'm trying to think of what word I would use. I think we tend to use the term...
Respectable.
No, we say honest, don't we, or respectful?
Respectable.
I think it... respectable is a good one, yeah. And I think it is important, but in England we tend to have a class culture still. where I think that you are respectful and honourable, if you like, if you are respectful no matter what class you're in. You know, whether you're wealthy or poor, you can get along with anyone, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't disagree
I
with
think
that.
what exemplifies honour or respectability tends to be your treatment of others regardless of the position. For example, I know that most people know the term Karen, which basically means a horrible woman that wants to speak to your manager. But you know, we would say they're very dishonourable. Like, they're the kind of people that would sit in a restaurant and click their fingers at the waitress and have a go at them if their order was wrong, even though the waitress, you know, might have wrote down the order right and then the cook might have got it wrong. Do you get where I'm coming from? Like, mistakes happen. I think a honourable or respectable person would be just, okay, that's fine, would you mind sorting it, please, and we'll be fine. You know, as in, there's no problem there.
Yeah.
But obviously then you've got a more honourable type where you don't lie or cheat, or, you know, you're loyal to your partner, for instance.
See,
Or things like that, I suppose.
it depends how you look at that question, because if you're asking me how I'd be honourable, I'd personally say it's just living under my moral beliefs.
What are your moral beliefs then?
Well, it's similar to what you were saying before about being respectful to everyone, etc., etc. But my point about from that side of it is that Karen might be a beliefs or what she does, and she might not see anything wrong with that. And you, as an outsider,
That doesn't mean that it's not wrong at a societal standard.
Yeah, but you don't know who that person is or what they've done, and they could be looked
No,
up.
but it doesn't matter. It's a societal standard. Like, for example, there is a socially acceptable level of frustration, or, you know, wanting to get something resolved.
Yeah.
So if someone goes over what I would say is socially acceptable, and granted, people might have different levels of socially acceptable, but I would say that spectrum does end where someone can cross the line with any reasonable person and it'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's whether they understand that they've crossed the line, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but that would make them dishonourable socially.
No, not
Or
necessarily,
disrespectful.
because I'd argue that lines were a lot thinner back in the days.
Yeah,
So
I
say if
agree.
you got a 70-year-old that's moaning about something that you would see as very minimal, or something that you just wouldn't do that about, like a Karen moment, when actually in their way of life and from what they understand, that's how you deal with that situation, and they're only doing what they've always done. They might be very respected in their community, and a lot of people that know them might not think they were doing anything wrong. It's just who that person is and what they do. I mean, whether it's right that they do that is a different question, but if you...
Yeah, I think we're convoluting different
Yeah.
like, questions, or how we've interpreted the question.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's
I
just...
agree with everything that you've said, it's just that's not what I was going at it from.
No.
For example, I understand that an older person comes from a different generational gap. In their generation, like you say, it might have been socially acceptable. For example, my mother is a businesswoman, very respectable, but she is middle to upper class, and she sometimes handles, returns, if you like a bit of a Karen. Now,
Yeah.
when I see her do it, I was like, I think you don't have to be like that.
Yeah.
You can just be like this. Now, I would argue that it's because my mother either hasn't for a long time worked in that position, or she's never worked in that position at all.
Yeah.
Thus, she may not remember or doesn't understand that you don't have to act sort of, what's the word? I think it's patronising or rude.
Yeah.
You can say, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think there are steps. Like, you start off by respectfully saying, can I please have this resolved in this way? And most of the time, I would say that, certainly in the big shops, like, I don't know, Tesco's, Marks and Spencer's or Walmart or whatever for Americans, you know, that'll tend to get it resolved straight away because, you know, the customer's always right in those situations and they'll just do it.
Yeah.
But you'll tend to find that the older generation will go in guns a-blazing and patronise the worker, even if the worker's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah. But
I would call that disrespectful.
But going back to your question, that doesn't make them any less morable or honourable.
I think I'm convoluting morality and respectful.
So my just to go back to the question, my honest answer would be, if it is, how do I keep the honour for me is...
How important is it to you and what does honour mean to you?
Yeah, so for me personally, it's... Honour for me is just living by my beliefs and how I believe I was brought up to behave. If that makes sense.
Sure. Would you say you have an exact code? I've added this question, by the way. Do you have, like, a code to live by? Or do you just judge things as they come?
There are things that I would definitely not do, or if a situation arose, and how I'd deal with it. But yeah, I'd say 9 times out of 10, I just judge things as I'm going.
So, you know what's right or wrong as you go.
Yeah. I just adjust. Yeah, I just adapt to the situation when it arises, mainly.
Which is why it's important to install good values on children.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I'm just looking at the next question.
But I don't think you should force that on your children. Because that's going in a different...
You don't think what?
I'm going into a different question now. But
Yeah, I think you are.
in relation to children and how you bring them up, I think there's a steady balance on pushing them in a direction, one direction or the other, and letting them make their own...
I was literally throwing a comment out at the end of the last question about, like, honour, saying, you know, it's important to instill the values or the code at the beginning of their lives, however you do it. I wasn't specifying how.
Yeah.
Because obviously when they're older, you don't want the person not to be able to judge something on the fringe badly.
Yeah.
Or, you know, societally wrongly,
Yeah.
we say.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next question is, do people have an obligation to help others, or should people be responsible for helping themselves? Now, I've actually got two sides to this question, because I know we've already spoke about community, and we've said that people are helping, and I don't think they're obligated to help. I think it is nice that they feel like they want to, or they need to.
Yeah.
But I don't think people should be obligated to help others. I think that the community, which I strongly believe in, should, you know, for example, if my neighbour 2-3 doors down came to me and said, look mate, my car's broke down, I really need to get to work today, are you busy, can you please take me to this location? I'd probably say yeah. Do you know what I mean? As in, I'd be like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, as long as I didn't have anything incredibly important to do myself, I'd say, yeah, mate, I'll drop you off on the way. You know, it wouldn't be a problem to me, and I'm not obligated to help him, but I would. I do think that people should be responsible for themselves more and more and more, and recently with government, it seems that people are trying to say that they are less responsible over and, you know, more and more and more.
Yeah.
What have you got? Because I'm about to go all in. Well, as in I'm about to call you 3K, and that's all you've got, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll throw you a bone. You might win this. I've only got a pair. I'll beat you. Lol. I thought you'd have more than a pair of sixes.
No, I was just trying to see if anyone...
Well, sorry for blanking you out.
It's alright. Have you got my 57k now?
I've got got 63,035 or 63.35k. So I'm balling right now, to be quite honest.
Do you think a lot of people, in the current circumstances, anyway, are going above and beyond merely just to get out of the house?
I think that's an element of it, but I don't think that it matters.
No, I don't think it matters.
Yeah. Are you still there?
Yeah.
I do think that people probably are doing that in a lot of cases, but I don't see a problem with it, to be honest.
No.
And I think that people, would they, maybe slightly less, would do as much? No, I don't know. I think, a lot of people did the clap for the NHS, which for any American listeners that may hear this, or from other countries, basically people stood outside the houses and clapped at a certain time of day to signify respect for the NHS, which is our National Health Service, the hospitals basically, with the work they were doing for COVID. I mean, that's a sign of respect. And then you had a lot of people volunteering to help. I mean, even my mother has volunteered to help, give the vaccines. And our vaccine rollout program has been brilliant, to be quite honest. Surprisingly so. So, yeah, I think that most people will do what they can for other people, especially if, you could argue that are they doing it to get out of the house? Yes, but are they also doing it because they don't have their regular responsibilities of work and, they feel that they can because they're not busy?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are doing it for that reason.
Well, yeah, don't get me, I'm not disrespecting anyone that does it, and I think it's really good and everything, but sometimes you can't help but think, if that person had, then again, they wouldn't volunteer because they've got different things. Yeah, ignore me.
I don't know what you're saying there, but we'll leave it there.
No. Well, the point that I was going to get to is if that person had a choice between doing their job and doing that, what would they choose? If you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think that is a bit of a benign question because they'd just be doing their job, wouldn't they?
Well, no, not technically. When it first happened, so I worked for the government, and because what we were normally doing, as in normal duties, kind of stopped dead in their tracks because they weren't prepared for it. They asked people or staff to volunteer for different things to support people instead of doing, obviously, their normal job. So that's kind of what I was getting at. But yeah.
Well, to move the question forward just a slight bit, I think that the responsibility is getting shifted more and more from the individual. I think that people should have more responsibility on themselves and not looking at other people or not other people, but government particularly. Saying, for example, it's the government's fault that I can't do anything. Because, particularly the younger generation seems to think that a lot of things should be already there for them. And, whether it be jobs, welfare, even like education or financial stability or what they should do next, everything. I think a lot of people think, why isn't the government got a plan or a system or something for this? Do it yourself. Sort yourself out. I certainly was like that when I was younger, and I think it's got worse since then.
Yeah.
And I think that there needs to be, for example, I remember we had this class called PSHE, I think, which was Public, Social and Health Education. It was meant to teach us about just a bit of everything. Why we weren't learning about government systems or job applications or, just general sort of, like, since I left school, I could have absolutely used that information more than a lot of other things, personally.
Yeah.
And it just seems like what we were really learning about at the time was I think we learned to put a condom on at one point on a banana. Just stuff like that, really.
Yeah.
Just nothing burger. But there we go. Do you have anything else to say on this question, or would you like to move on? How long have we been streaming?
We're on an hour and a half now.
Oh, a little green thing just flashed up. What was that? Was that a message? What? Just so everyone knows, we're very, and I don't. From your listeners, can talk to you by sending messages. Fair dues. I don't know if that. I don't know what it was. So I'll just leave it. Moving to the next question. How many more questions do you want to do?
We'll do one more and then we'll call it.
Alright. Okay, let's go with this one. What is the purpose of human life?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think the answer is quite simple, to be honest. I don't think it's... I mean, people, talk about lots of, purpose for human life, but I think, personally, it's reproduction. Just to prosper. Ultimately.
Yeah and no.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I've shaved it down to its simplistic form.
Yeah. I think it is to, obviously reproduce and keep the human race going. But I also think it is to, I think the purpose of human life is to keep a balance.
Between what?
A balance between, and it's going back to environmental friendly, but a balance between wrecking the planet and, I'm just complicating it even more.
That's my point.
I'll put it in a different way. I think it is to reproduce, keep the human race going, and sustainably live as long as you can on this earth, or move to another one to make it happen.
I'm trying to think if I agree with that or not. No, I think it might even be less than reproduce. I think it might be to survive.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much the same.
That includes reproduce.
Yeah.
So, do you get what I'm coming from?
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what I was saying.
It matters.
I think it's about keeping the human race going.
We go from one planet. You go first.
Yeah, I just think it's about keeping the human race going, and wherever that might be.
Or however that might be.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters whether we're on one planet or a million planets. I think that's where it might go very, very, very long term if we don't kill ourselves in the meantime. I think if we do start, getting over to other planets, I don't think we will ever die out.
No.
For example, if a planetary crisis happened, there'd be another planet with us on it. So, do you get where I'm coming from? I think once we've mastered terraforming, or at least living on other planets, the human race will probably endure forever.
Yeah, it's not a bad challenge.
Which is a very weird thing to do.
How do you think we'll look in tens of thousands of years if we're still around? Because, I mean,
that's incredibly difficult to say.
Well, if you look at the past records of how we've developed, or do you think we're at the? Do you think we're currently at the most sufficient kind of stage?
But you've got to remember, we are still a young species in evolutionary terms.
Yeah.
The human race is in Homo erectus to Homo sapien has only existed for what, like 4 million years, is it?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think Homo erectus might be younger than that, but the Homo gene, or the Homo, I can't remember what it's called in a second. But the Homo sort of the human gene pool, like where that lineage I think has been 4 million years, but I think the Homo sapien and Homo erectus genuses have been less than that. So, in fact, I want to say that it's only been about 4,000 years or something.
All right, then. A follow-up question to my response. If you could modify or make better one thing about the human race, what would it be?
I would like wings.
How do you think that would that make us better though?
Bearing in mind if we'd had them all along, I think it would have made tribalism lesser because people could have migrated easier.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be this we're from here, they're from there, because people could fly anywhere.
Yeah, but imagine the problems that could cause.
Yeah, but if they've been doing it all along, I mean, I don't know. This is the point. This is far too complicated.
Well, before they put borders up.
I think that we'll always evolve, but we obviously will evolve around the technology that stays with us for a long period of time. I mean, God, it's very difficult to say. People have talked about...
Just going back to your wing theory.
Yeah.
Environmental-wise, how much do you reckon that would have saved the planet if we had wings? Because you wouldn't have produced cars, you wouldn't have produced aeroplanes, or would you still have produced aeroplanes and cars? Would there have been a need for it?
It's possible we still have produced aeroplanes. Depends how long we could fly for. Depends if we were like chickens or or eagles.
Yeah, I suppose that's an impossible question to answer because so much would be different. Like everything you know going back wouldn't have happened in the way that it did.
I mean, we'd still have like fat people that may, I can't fly anymore.
So
or maybe to fly would have needed a less bone density.
So for the question, are you sticking with wings then?
I like things. I mean, you could also say telepathy. Being able to talk between minds rather than speak. But I don't see a problem with speaking. I think it's probably important that some people's minds are kept closed.
Do you think they'll ever get to a point that they can insert a chip into your head to allow you to recall anything at any time, memory-wise?
Oh, I don't know about that. I thought you meant that. I can imagine that we absolutely get a chip in our head to call other people or to access information. Sort of. You just think about it and it appears. Do you know what I mean? As in some form of.
That's a similar.
Sort of as a helper.
Yeah, I mean that's a similar thing to what I was asking there, or suggesting, because obviously.
No, you were suggesting that it'd be able to dive into your own memory, sort of into the human mind. What you were talking about was interior to your body. I was talking about exterior. I was saying that the chip on your head, you would be able to access stuff, like on the internet. I never said that you'd be able to dive into your own mind and recall, lost memories or whatever.
No, I was referring to being able to get information there and then as to whatever you want.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about recouping like memories that you had as a 3-year-old or whatever.
No, I don't think it'd do that. However, if you had it inserted as a 3-year-old, could it record your mind?
Probably. Although it depends, we'd have to have a cloud-based, memory system.
Yeah. But
to record every memory of everyone on the planet.
Going back to my actual question, because I divulged a bit there. But what I was going to say, what I was going to say is, what problems do you think that will cause if it does happen? And
it depends on how it's implemented over time.
I think it could be possibly done now, but they won't want to because of the implications. So take education for example. If you could just pick up anything at any time when you needed it on demand, what's the point in education?
that getting to this point, we still haven't got to robotics to do a lot of stuff. I would assume that whatever digital chip you had in your head, you could either turn off, or maybe they'd create some sort of modem that could turn off any chip in your head within a certain distance. Do you know what I mean?
So like a jammer, or like a signal jammer.
You want?
Like a signal jammer.
Yeah, like a signal jammer.
Yeah, so like if you went for an interview.
Yeah, they could use it, you know, as in, I think that it would basically be like a mobile phone that would be attached to your head in whatever way it was.
Mm.
Maybe you could watch movies on it, YouTube, read articles, whatever, and you'd just be sat there sort of looking at it in your head.
Yeah.
It's very weird, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah, I just think of the
When I say possible,
implication.
I'm not saying it's possible now.
I'd argue that it probably is. To a
I
degree.
don't know. I think that the human brain is a lot more complicated than just sticking a chip on it.
Yeah, but I mean, what's to say you can't have a contact lens with a computer in it?
That's not a bad shout, although that's micro technology, which I don't think, even if it could be produced, it certainly could be mass produced. That'd be ridiculously expensive.
Yeah. But they'll find a way eventually.
I absolutely agree that it's probably where technology's going.
Mm.
I mean, what I like the idea of, and I think it's already been made to a prototype level or maybe more, is the idea of having your mobile phone in your pocket, sure, but having a watch, and instead of the watch having a screen, it just projects onto your arm. And I'm sure I've seen it, but it projected it to a level where it was actually a good screen on your arm sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you could shine it at a wall. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I just imagine people driving down the motorway watching a film in the head. and how would things be? I just think it'd cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't see it. Yeah, I wouldn't see it as something the government would want people to have, because I think it could be one of those things that becomes more dangerous than it's worth.
Yeah, but then again, you could have argued that about the mobile phone back in the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. Good win.
I know.
Right, should we end then?
Yeah, we'll run up there. So thanks for listening, guys. We hope you enjoyed this first ever stereo conversation that we're trying out. And follow us on the app. Obviously, I'm speaking with Cyberdwarf89. I am JD Shaw, and you can find us on Twitch under the same names. And you can also find us on YouTube and Facebook on The Underdogs Live.
Yep.
Anything to wrap up with, Cyberdwarf?
No, check out our website. Underdogs.live. But yeah, cheers for listening if you are listening. And if you like it, let us know and we'll do some more.
Take care of yourself, guys.
Bye.
Oh, I love the smell.
Oh. Right, guys on the stream, I'm going to end it here. Thanks for watching. We're just having a chill night tonight, just having a chat on stereo.com. Do go and download it, it's pretty cool. It's a new app that I found the other day. But yeah, it's cool. You can just listen to streamers and other people that are doing shows. There's a lot of YouTubers starting to do it now. But do check it out. Like I say, this is a chill stream tonight. I will be doing some more My Summer Car and ATS American Truck Simulator with JD this week at some point. So do come back for that. And yeah, cheers.
Cover them up so you don't see